Hi, I'm Jeri Hill, and I want to share some things about Leonard Ravenhill that so impacted my life. Brother Dave had different teachers at the Bible school, and Leonard was one of the teachers that we had. And he came in and he was talking about revival and how you get revival and how revival tarries. And he was sharing all of these things and speaking into our lives, and it impacted us. Steve had gone over to Spain and had taken our son with him, and I couldn't go and couldn't get over to Spain for 6 weeks. And there were a few different things that I had to do, but towards the end, there was a situation that came up where we've discovered that we had mice in the duplex we were staying in. And so somebody came over and set some traps, and there was 4 mice found the next morning. Then they set the traps again the next morning, 4 more mice. The next morning, 4 more mice. In total, there was 12 mice that were found. And right towards the end, when I'm getting everything ready to go on this trip to Spain, I discovered that there was mice droppings in my daughter's crib and on the other bed. And during that time, right before we found out there was mice, my daughter would not sleep in her crib, and she had had the chicken pox. And all of a sudden it was blowing up in my brain that these mice were crawling on my baby in the crib and chewing on the chicken pox that was on her little body. And it blew up in my brain. And I was talking to Steve on the phone. I was telling this to him. I was so upset that their mice had been crawling on our baby. And Steve was telling me, that I needed to calm down and not be so upset about this, because what he was upset was that in Spain, God was not moving. People were not open to receiving Christ, and he wasn't seeing any results. And it had been like 6 weeks and nobody had gotten saved. And he was frustrated that nobody was getting saved. Well, during that 6-week period, I was distracted and I was doing other things that I had to get done before I could go to Spain. And he was over there and nothing was happening. And when I got off the phone, I went into the living room, and I'd been reading one of Leonard's books. And I always spent time with Leonard. When Steve was gone, or whether he was there or not, we would take him to different appointments, and I spent time with Martha, his wife, and I would take my children over there and spend time with Leonard. And so I had his books and I was reading them, and I really respected Leonard and Martha. And I picked up the book after this bout with the mice. I picked up the book, and where I had left off in the book, I opened it up, and it said, "Some of you are hunting mice while the lion devours the land." And right then I knew that God was speaking to me, because I had not been praying for my husband over in Spain, and that I was distracted by all these different things. And the minute things in life can become so important to us that we aren't praying for the lost. We aren't praying for God to move. And I fell on my face and wept before God, asking him to move in my life. And I repented of being distracted and not interceding for Steve. And for the next half hour, I was repenting, and then I moved into about an hour and a half of intercession for Spain, that the lion was devouring Spain. And I interceded, and the next call that I get from Steve was that all heaven had come down, and a group of people of about 120 got saved that day. And God moved. And then right after that, and I'm talking to Steve, and he's telling me this, I'm so excited and I'm so pumped that God used me in Texas to pray for Steve in Spain. And then shortly after that, I get a call from Leonard and Martha. They're both on the phone, and I'm telling him what just happened. And Leonard, he was trying to downplay it a little bit, and he goes, "Oh, you wouldn't have even noticed if you hadn't been chasing mice and dealing with mice." And right then, Martha chimes in, and she goes, "Len, don't discredit what God is doing in her life." And he goes, yes, of course. And they begin to pray with me too. And so they spoke into my life. It was such an intensity. It wasn't just in what we read in his books, but he was a carrier of it. And he told us all the time that he got up at 3 a.m. to pray and to intercede, and he was going after God. And Steve one time was saying to him, Brother Len, pray that this weight lifts off my shoulders. And he goes, why would I pray that when I'm praying that burden on you? And that's what we have got to be. We've got to be open to carrying that burden, the burden for the lost, and let God have his way in our lives.